What we have here is a GeoGebra scored app on how to go through the steps using the quadratic formula. So we're given a function f of x equals 4x squared minus 6x minus 3, and the first thing we have to do is move the red, blue, and green sliders to reflect the correct a, b, and c value. So I'm going to move the a value up to 4, the b value to -6, and the c value to -3. Alright, now as soon as I have those three correct, and now the upper quadratic formula representation is correct, I get another quadratic formula that's not correct yet, and I have three things to correct in there. I have to move the slider to the opposite of b. Well, b was -6, so the opposite of that would be +6. Twice a would be 2 times 4, which is 8, so I have to move the twice a slider to 8. Alright, I now have to calculate the discriminant, the part underneath the radical. I have a input box for that, so I can go up in the input box and delete what's ever there, and now I'm going to follow exactly what's underneath the radical. I'm going to put a parentheses, -6, close my parentheses, squared, caret 2, alright, minus 4, open parentheses, another 4, close my parentheses, another -3, and then close it out. So when I press return on my iPad, I basically will get the value for the discriminant, and it's 84. I now have to go down to the slider and move this slider to 84. And remember, sliders, if you can't get the slider, you can get close and then just tap left or right. So now I get a new pop-up and it says, how many roots or zeros or x-intercepts do you have? Well, the value underneath the radical is a positive value, so I'm going to have 0. Just to demonstrate what might happen if I move how many to 0, if that was negative underneath the radical, I would already get a message that says I'm correct. If it was 0 underneath the radical, I would, and put the slider to 1 root, I would get the message that it's correct. And that didn't happen yet, so now I have to move the slider to 2 solutions. I get a new pop-up and it shows me the way I'm supposed to enter it. You will have difficulty if you try to use a calculator and then type in the value, especially if the square root is a irrational number. So I'm going to do it right on the screen, and I'm going to delete that 2, and I'm going to put in, because we did the work above, and this is the way we have to enter it. So open a parentheses, 6. I'm doing the positive path here because it asked for the positive path. I need to go and SQRT for square root. Open parentheses, put in 84. Close parentheses, close again, and then I'm going to divide by 8. When I press return, I'm going to get a value there. I'm still not sure whether that's correct until I do the second or the negative path. Alright, I tap over into the negative path, delete, 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 and start again with open parentheses 6. This time I'm following a negative path, so I'm going to say minus SQRT, SQRT, open a parentheses 84, close, close, divided by 8. Double check before I press return. I press return, and those values are now correct, and it tells me I'm correct, and then I can click for new data. Alright, the small number is showing you the attempts, alright, and I had 5. What I did is I hit the new data several times because I wanted to get one that had a 2 solution or 2 roots as its solution instead of none or 1. So I'm going to click for new data, and I missed it. Okay, I got my 1 point, and it says I now have 6 attempts, that tiny number there. It's to keep students from just clicking, 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 new data until they get a much easier problem. You can try to hold them to a minimum number of attempts. I usually go with a score of 10, and if you have more than 15 attempts, then I think you are trying to manipulate the program to give you easier problems. Alright, so I have another problem. When I look at this, I can tell you I'm going to get a different situation here. I'm moving my slider to 10 for A. I'm moving my B slider to 7. And the C slider to 6. I get the new pop-up, and at this point the opposite of B is going to be -7, and twice A is going to be 20, and I now need to calculate what's under the radical, and I'm going to enter it just as I see it. I'm going to say 7, close the parentheses. I started with the parentheses, put 7 and closed it, and now I'm going to caret 2, and to square it, -4, open to multiply by 10, close, open to multiply by 6, close. And when I press return, I get -191. I must move my slider to -191. I now have the new pop-up, and of course, since it's negative under there, I'm not going to get any zeros or roots. So I'm going to move the slider to 0 for the roots. It says I'm correct, and so when I click new data, I will get my second point with that. Now the thing that happens with getting 0 underneath the radical is you still have to enter it twice, but both values would be the same. So it's a little bit simpler when you get 0 under the radical, which does not occur quite as often.